Hi fam, how are you doing? I hope that you guys are doing well. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer Ngumalo. I do hope that you join us by clicking that red subscribe button on the bottom, and also don't forget to smash that like button because it does help with the YouTube algorithm. I'll also like to encourage you to interact on the comment section. If you have any questions, if you need me to clarify on something, please make sure that you leave your comment on the comment section below. And also I'm going to leave the links to videos that are related to what we're going to be talking about on the description down below. Remember, the description is just next to the title. So the title of this video, there is a more that is written there. You click on more, that is where you're going to find the description box. It has all the information that you will need regarding the videos that will be relevant to this one, as well as any other information that I feel that you guys need to have or you need to just be aware of. So with that being said, let us get into the point of this video. So today we are going to be talking about building an emergency fund. So I've done a video before talking about an emergency fund, but I did that when we were not even on 10k, and so our community, our family has grown, and I feel like it's the right time for me to recreate this video. But this one is going to be more so on a practical side in terms of how do you really go about building an emergency fund. It's going to be a crash course, basic, when you did economics, there was economics 101, 102, and then it became extensive with time. But this video is just going to be building an emergency fund 101. So the first thing that we need to understand is what is an emergency fund. So when we're talking of an emergency fund, we're talking about money that is set aside in cases of emergencies that may come up in your life. So you know that there are certain situations that may come up in your life that are unpredictable, that you cannot plan for. Emergency fund is there for that. So basically you are setting money aside for those unforeseeable circumstances that may come up in your life that need money. Not everything that comes up in your life that is an emergency needs money, but there are certain things that do need money, and so an emergency fund is basically that. Now for me, the better way that I try to conceptualize an emergency fund is looking at if there's no financial products for that particular circumstance right now, then an emergency fund is very useful. So you cannot say you have an emergency fund for funerals. You cannot say that you have an emergency fund for just in case you get into a car accident. You cannot say that you have an emergency fund just in case your house burns. You cannot say you have an emergency fund just in case your items get stolen, because there are financial products for those things. So what you want to do is you want to focus on things that do not have financial products, and the things that have financial products, then you make sure that you are putting money towards those things, so having financial products for those things. And so if there are no financial products for those things, just like being laid off, there really isn't a direct financial product unless they talk about disability and all that other stuff. But for just being laid off, for the fact that they are doing job cuts, there really isn't a structured financial product for that. And so you want to plan for those things. You want to then save for those unpredictable circumstances. And also, let's say for instance you own a car, and maybe in the insurance that you have with your car, and there is a shortfall of a certain amount. You want to make sure that in your emergency fund you will be able to cover that shortfall. So that is how I conceptualize emergency fund, and that is how I think about it in order for me to start working towards building it, and also to just understand why I'm building it. The second part is understanding why you are building an emergency fund. I've talked about what is an emergency fund. I've shared with you guys my perspective in terms of how I go about it, but also I think it's very important to understand why are you building an emergency fund? Why is it necessary that you must have an emergency fund? Have you ever been in a situation whereby you needed money urgently but you didn't have it, and as a result you find yourself calling a friend and say, hi friend, can you kindly borrow me 2,000? There's something that came out that I need to deal with. Or you find yourself going to a bank and having to take out a credit card because now there's something that needs money that you do not have. Or you found yourself having to do an overdraft or increase your credit card limit because there's something that came up. So for me, the reason why I have an emergency fund is just to protect me in getting into more debt, or if you are not indebted already, it's just helping you to avoid getting into debt. So that is why you want to have an emergency fund, so that you're not that friend that is always calling the other friends asking for money because now there's an emergency. And also the last thing is you also want to just have peace of mind. There's a good feeling that you get by having financial peace. And for me, it is the most important thing. It's the first foundation for you to get to financial freedom. You want to start by having financial peace, and you start having financial peace by actually making sure that you have cushions around your life. I always talk about cushions around your life, but having cushions around your life to protect you. So I talked about financial products at the beginning, having financial products to cover you in those certain things, but then having an emergency fund to cover you on things that do not on things that financial products do not exist in. And so that allows you to have peace of mind when it comes to your finances. And so that's why you want to have an emergency fund. You want to protect yourself from debt, and also just to have a peace of mind when it comes to your finances. You want to have financial peace. The third thing that you need to do is you need to now you need to decide what constitutes an emergency in your life. As much as we understand what is an emergency, we understand why we need an emergency fund. Now it's very important to understand what constitutes an emergency in your life. Not an emergency fund, but an emergency. What is that situation that you would say that if it were to come up, this is something that I would classify as an emergency, and it would need me to deal with this thing. And so you need to identify what would be possible emergencies in your life. So let's say, for instance, I made an example of a car. You own a car, but there's a shortfall. You need to just know that shortfall is going to be an emergency in your life, because you might need to cover that shortfall unexpectedly, so because no one plans to get into a car accident, and so you might need to cover yourself there. A tire burst in your car, that would be an emergency that you will need money on. So you need to just be clear about what would constitute an emergency. A friend calling you and asking for money because they have an emergency, that is not your emergency, it's their emergency. And so it does not mean that you go and tap into your emergency to deal with other people's emergencies, unless if, let's say, for instance, it's your parents, it's your mom, it's your dad, maybe it's a close sibling, like it's your sister, like maybe they are more so dependent on you, or something at home that happened, that you can then say that it's an emergency, especially if there aren't resources for that particular thing. And so you can say that those are emergencies. But the biggest one of all is also getting laid off. This is a reality for many of us. And so if you do happen to get laid off, you want to make sure that there is money set aside for that circumstance. And so that would be an emergency. So sit down and really think about this. Take time to think about what would constitute an emergency in my life, so that you help yourself to avoid instances whereby there's something that come up in your life and then you rush towards your emergency because you feel like you need money. You want to make sure that these things are not emergencies. You want to make sure that you identify what are emergencies, so that you can make sure that in the money that you are setting aside, you are clear as to what are you saving them for, as well as now that the funds will be built up, you are not just willy-nilly withdrawing from them. It's important that you take time to identify what will constitute an emergency in your life. So the fourth thing is, now how do you then go about calculating your emergency fund? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to my desk and I'm going to break this down to you guys so that you just clearly understand what it is. So let's head on over to, let's just turn around and just do those calculations. Before we get into calculating, I'm gonna open my budget as well. Now this is going to allow me to show me that, okay, this is how much I spend on per month when it comes to my necessities, because that is how you calculate your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is determined by your necessities. Not everything needs to be saved for in terms of calling it an emergency fund, or basically not everything that you spend on per month needs to be saved for when it comes to emergency fund. And so what I do is I look at my necessities. So we're going to go through my budget here. Let me just bring it closer. We're going to go through my budget here, and then we're going to decide what are the things that I need to make sure that I include. So as I said, most of the time when we go about calculating emergency fund, we're looking at, just in case you lose your job, you need to be able to survive for a particular period of time. For me, I'm going to start with this side of my budget. So this side of my budget looks at savings. It looks at savings, it looks at my weekly allocation, and then I have my expenses. Now, currently, when it comes to debt, I do have debts. So in terms of debt, I have my bond. So I'm going to say first bond. Okay, I think I need to use capital letters. Okay, so the first thing that I have is my bond that I have to put money for. And when it comes to my bond, right now I am paying 7,000. 7,000 is not really how much I'm supposed to be paying. I always put extra. So right now I'm supposed to be paying 6,300 and something, but then the additional one is just money that I put in extra towards my repayment. And then the second thing, the other debts that I have is NSFAS as well as MTN. Now, when it comes to MTN, I know that it is data for me. Now, those are things that I really do need. And right now, when it comes to data, it is about 360. And then NSFAS is something that I can afford not to pay because it's not heavy on the interest. And so it's something that I know that if, let's say, for instance, I were to be unemployed, obviously I have no money to pay towards NSFAS because it's money that you're paying back to the state. And that is not to say that it's not important to pay my NSFAS, but I'm just saying that it's not something that I know. It's something that I know it wouldn't affect my credit score, and it's something that I can pause and then when I get employment, start again. And then the third thing that I know that I need data. The reason why I'm putting it here is because I have two plans. I've got I've got Wi-Fi and then I've got data. I know that Wi-Fi I can survive without, but data I need because it's something that I can access. It's something that I use even when I'm not in the house. And so I need to have my data plan because then it will allow me to do the things that I need to do. After that, then let's go into the other things. So the other thing would be food. I need food. So the bond tackles shelter, data tackles communication, food tackles my health. And so for my health, I would say that it's around 2,400. Ne? And then let's go to the fourth one. The fourth one would be my water plus electricity. Roughly, I pay 1,100. And then let's talk to, then it's rate plus levies. Roughly, I pay around 980. And then another one that I pay for is the other thing that would be very important for me to have is, let's just say, insurance. So for insurance, I'm gonna group my life cover and funeral cover together and make it 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to be 800. I'm not gonna put car insurance here because if I were to not be employed, it's something that I know that my partner can take care of because on the day it is his car. I do not own the car, but just because I'm working, then I decided that let me contribute towards paying for the car insurance. But if I'm not working, he would understand that I cannot pay for car insurance, so that's why I'm not gonna put it here. And then the other one that I'm going to put it here, Netflix, is not something that I'll put here. Me helping out at home is not something that I'll put in here because obviously I wouldn't have money to help out. And then for school also, it's not something that I'm going to put here because most of the time when it comes to school, we pay for the entire year, so it's not something that I would put in here. So normally for school, we pay for aftercare, but that's money that that's my partner who covers that. Normally me, I just put 200 rands per month just for things that may come up, miscellaneous things. And then me, I wouldn't put anything here. So that's basically it. Food, water, electricity, insurance, or transport. So let's just say for transport, just for umntwana, because I'm saying here transport, obviously if I'm not working, where am I going? I'm taking umntwana to school, and so that will probably be 1,000. Now let's calculate how much this would be in total. 7,000 plus 360 plus 2,400 plus 1,100 plus 980 plus 800 plus 1,000. So per month it is 13,640, which I'm gonna round it off to 13,650. 13,650 because I'm just rounding it off. Okay. Or let's just put it as 3,640. It's fine. Okay, so this is how much money I would need for me to have per month in order for me to say that, okay, 1 month of my emergency fund is covered. You then need to decide how many months do you want your emergency fund. So you can say I want to have a 3 months emergency fund, or you can say you want a 6 months emergency fund. So you can say, as I said here, you can say, let's use another pen. So you can say that you want a 3 months, or you can say you want 6 months. It is honestly up to you. And so what you would do is you say 13,640 times 3, and then you get your total. And then here you say 13,640 times 6, you get your total. So let us check how much that is. Times 3, that's 40,920. And then if it's the other way around, which is 6 months, so you would say 13,640 times 6 months, that would be 81,840. So this is how much money you will need in order for you to say that you have an emergency fund. So you decide this one or this one. So for me, I am currently working towards a 3 months emergency fund. So let me just switch this off. So for me currently, when we are looking at this, based on my expenses, on my monthly expenses and my life right now in terms of the sector that I'm in terms of employment, there isn't a high likelihood of me losing my job. But if you're working in a private sector, you might want to consider the 6 month. But also if you are, let's say for instance, you are working in a contract position. If right now you are in a contract position where you are not permanent, I would really encourage you to work towards saving towards emergency fund and make it for 6 months. 6 months is a good time to try and find another form of employment, or to try at least get some sort of income coming in. So for me right now, I'm currently working towards saving the 3 months. Currently, we are on 32,000 in terms of my savings, but we are currently working towards this, which is 40. But my goal is to have at least 60,000 towards my emergency fund. And so that's basically around 5-ish months. It's 4 to 5-ish months that it will allow me to have. So as I said, you must decide, are you gonna choose the 3 months, or are you gonna do the 6 months? This is dependent on your circumstances in terms of employment right now. Then you must make your decision. So that's basically how you go about calculating how much you need towards your emergency fund. And then now that you understand that this is how much you need per month, then you then decide, is it going to be 3 months that you're going to be saving for, or do you need a 6 month emergency fund? Then you take this, you times it by 3 months, or you times it by 6 months, you get the goal. And then what you do then, what I love about Frank is, you will then take this goal, you put it there as this is the goal that you're working towards, and then what you do is it will break it down for you in terms of how much you will need to save per month in order for you to work towards this goal in this particular time frame that you have set for yourself. And then you will know. So that's why for me currently I am paying 1,210 on towards my emergency fund per month. Put a goal of 30,000, and then it broke it down to 1,210. However, now looking at my numbers, because obviously things have changed, things have went up, the numbers are no longer the same, which means that now my new goal has to be 40,000, has to be 41,000, and that's what I'm gonna work towards, because already I've met the 30 goal that I set initially, but clearly because of increases in things, I need more than that. I need 10,000 rand extra. So that is how I am going about saving for my emergency fund. So for me, Frank is a great place to keep my emergency fund, and I like that it calculates for you how much you're gonna have to put per month, and then you set up a debit order for that particular amount per month. So yeah, That is it. Now let us just go and close off this video. Now that we have done the calculation, the last thing that we need to talk about is best places where you should keep your emergency fund. As much as now we understand what is emergency fund, how do you go, what would constitute an emergency fund, and how you would go about calculating your emergency fund. Now let's say you are ready to start saving. Where are the best places to keep your emergency fund? Normally, what the financial people normally say, or basically the financial people in the financial space normally recommend, is saving your emergency fund in a savings account that is easily accessible. Now for me, I feel like this is a recipe for disaster. As much as it needs to be easily accessible, but a savings account, a mere savings account that you can just tap into anytime, is not a good place to keep your emergency fund, especially if you know that you are not that disciplined. So what I would suggest is keep your emergency fund, yes, in a savings account that is somehow easily accessible, but also that has interest. You don't want to just keep your emergency fund and in one of your bank accounts that literally has no interest whatsoever. You don't want to do that. But also you do not want it to be too easily accessible. So you don't, as much as I'm saying in a savings account, but if I'm being honest, if it's too easily accessible, you are likely to tap into this money and you are likely to not build it up in a way that you desire because you keep tapping into it. It is that easily accessible, and so you want to make it, you don't want to make it too easily accessible, but also you don't want to make it hard for you to access it. So let's say, for instance, things that I wouldn't recommend for you to put your money in is 30-day notice. It's not a good place to put your emergency fund in. A 7-day notice, it's not a good place to put your emergency fund in. 7 days is a long time to deal with an emergency. Some emergencies, they need you to deal with them within a day or two, and so you want to make sure that wherever that you put your money, at least it's a maximum of 2 days for you to get that money. And also you do not want to invest this money in shares and also in crypto, because these are volatile markets, and so you don't want to be gambling with an emergency fund. You want to make sure that you are saving it, but wherever you are saving it, it is gaining interest for you. So some of the places currently in South Africa that I would recommend for you to keep your emergency fund in is Frank Group. Frank Group is a great place to keep your emergency fund in. For me right now, that is where I keep my emergency fund, and it's just so nice to see it grow. But also the nice thing is the interest that I gain on my emergency fund as it sits there. Right now I'm over 30,000, and on my 30,000 I'm earning close to 2,000. Right now I'm earning close to 2,000 on interest, just interest. And so that tells you something about the fact that you need to make sure that wherever you are putting your money, it needs to be interest bearing. And also another place that I love is Time Bank. Time Bank is easily accessible, but what I love about it is that as much as it is easily accessible, there is still that thing there whereby you gaining interest on the money as you have saved it. Now what I love about Time Bank as well is that you can have different goals in there. So you can have different savings goals. So you can have one for your emergency fund, and then you can have other ones for other things. That way it helps you that whatever that may come up, you do not rush towards your emergency fund, because there are other savings that you have. But just make sure that wherever you are putting your money, you're wise about it in terms of making sure that it is accessible. At least give you at least 2 days for you to access the money, but not more than that. You don't want to put your money in a place that takes more than 2 days to get your money. Like one of the places that I save money on, it's called, what is it called? Where's my phone? Oh, they call it Stash. I have Stash. I've tried to save on it, but I do not like how long. It's easy to set it up and put money in it for to be able to put money in it. However, to get your money back, to withdraw money, it takes 4 to 5 days. I recently withdrew money like last week, and it took over 3 days, I think about 4 days, for the money to reflect on my side. And so those are not good places that you want to keep your emergency fund on. So make sure that wherever you keep your money on, it's accessible within 2 days, but then not too easily accessible. Yes, Time Bank is easily accessible such that you can get your money immediately. So But what I love about it is that you have options of actually saving in other goals, so that way you do not tap into your emergency fund. So we are done with this video. I hope that you found value in this video, that it was educational, and that is going to help you to just keep going if you already started with your emergency fund. But also, if you haven't started, how to go about starting. And so I do hope that it is helpful. If it was, please make sure that you leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts, as well as if it was helpful. With that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Please take care and stay safe. Bye.